The back room of Burke's saloon stank of whiskey, sweat, and fear. May's wrists were bound with rough rope, the fibers cutting into her skin. Beside her, Lily crouched small and trembling, every breath a ragged gasp. Burke loomed above them, cruel grin sharp as a knife. And in the corner, Sykes twirled his blade between thick fingers, eager for blood. Two shadows, two predators, and no escape. "You can't pay me in coin," Burke growled, his voice low, hungry. "Then you pay me in flesh." May's chest tightened. Her lips were split from his slap, her mouth dry as dust. Her sister's eyes, only 21, too young for hell like this, pleaded silently. Burke yanked May upright. His breath burned her cheek. "You or her? Your choice." His fingers traced along Lily's arm, and Lily whimpered, the sound slicing May in half. Shame pressed down like chains. May's voice broke as she whispered, I took it off. Please, please let her go." The words hit the room like a hammer. She was not stripped yet, but she was already broken, her dignity traded for her sister's life. Lily screamed, thrashing against the ropes. "No, don't! Somebody help us!" Her cry carried through the thin wooden wall. Out front, Jack Colton sat at the bar, gray at the temples, shoulders bent from years of ranch work. He had come only for tobacco and silence, but when that cry rang out, high, terrified, it froze him in place. A memory slashed open inside him, his daughter's voice, 10 years gone, the scream before the gun, the grave that had never healed. Jack set his glass down. His boots struck the floorboards, heavy, final. The piano stopped. Men at the bar went quiet, eyes flicking toward him. Jack pushed open the backroom door and stopped cold. May, her blouse torn, shame in her eyes. Lily bound and weeping, Burke's hand gripping May like cattle. Sykes smirking, knife gleaming. Jack's breath caught. For one heartbeat he was back in that night he had failed. His jaw locked. His hand hovered near the revolver on his hip. Burke snarled, "This is no business of yours, old man." "Turn around." Jack didn't move. His eyes held May's, reading the silent plea written there. A woman sacrificing herself. A sister clinging to hope. The air thickened. Would he walk away, let history repeat? Or would Jack Colton act? Burke's grin widened. "Walk away." Jack's hand drifted closer to steel. The years of rust in his soul cracked. Lily's cry cut through like thunder. "Please, mister, don't let him." Something broke inside Jack. His revolver cleared the holster in one smooth motion. The hammer pulled back with a sound louder than any gunshot. Sykes froze. Burke's grin faltered. "Untie them," Jack said, low, steady, not a request, a law. Burke hesitated until he saw the fire in Jack's eyes. The old soldier who never missed. With a curse, he yanked the ropes free. Sykes dropped his knife. May collapsed into Lily's arms, sisters clutching each other, sobbing, alive. Jack's revolver stayed steady. Men like Burke only understood steel. Finally, he growled, "Get out!" Burke spat, humiliated, but backed toward the door. "This ain't over, old man." The slam of the door rang like a warning. May turned to Jack, voice trembling. "Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Jack holstered his gun, eyes shadowed with pain. "Because someone should have helped my daughter." And nobody did. Silence swallowed the room. Then May whispered, "Are we safe now?" Jack's gaze stayed fixed on the door. Safe? Not even close. Burke's a coward, but a coward with power, and men like that never let go. Outside, the night was heavy with dust and danger. Jack walked the sisters to his horse, boots crunching on dirt. Lily shivered in the cold. Jack lifted her onto the saddle, then helped May up. "You didn't have to save us," May said softly. "Now Burke will come for you too." Jack shook his head. "Worse men than Burke have come for me. And I'm still here." But even he knew this storm was only beginning. If you're still here listening, well, I'd say you're just like Jack Colton. You don't turn away when someone needs help. Hit that subscribe button. because what comes next will test him more than any bullet ever could. The ride back to Jack's ranch was silent but heavy. The sisters clung to each other, every creak of saddle leather echoing their fear. Jack said nothing, his eyes always on the horizon, scanning shadows like a man expecting ghosts. When they reached his place, the ranch looked worn and tired. A lantern on the porch flickered weak against the wide dark, but inside there was bread, water, and shelter, more than May or Lily had dared hope for. They ate without words. Hunger swallowed everything. Jack watched, memories cutting like knives. His daughter once sat at that same table. The ache never softened. He just carried it deeper. Finally, May whispered, "What will happen when Burke comes back?" Jack leaned back, eyes hard. "He will come. He's too proud to let this go. But when he does, he'll find I'm ready." Lily gripped her cup with both hands. "You're just one man." Jack gave a graveled laugh. "One man with a steady hand and a clear conscience can be enough." The wind rattled the shutters. A coyote cried far off. The world seemed to be holding its breath. Morning broke cold. The sisters barely slept. Jack was already outside feeding his horse, moving slow, steady, like the night hadn't shaken him. May pulled her shawl close. "You really think Burke will come today?" Jack didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the empty field. "Men like him don't like shame. They always come back." Lily's voice trembled. "What if he brings the law?" Jack's jaw tightened. "The law bends easy. Deputy Crow's been in Burke's pocket for years. That makes him worse than outlaws." The sisters traded nervous glances. Safe felt like a thin blanket against a cold storm. Later that morning, Jack saddled up. "You stay here," he told them. "If trouble comes, hide in the cellar. Don't open the door." His horse's hooves thudded steady as he rode into town. The saloon was buzzing when Jack pushed through the door. Burke sat with Sykes, grinning wide, and sure enough, Deputy Crow leaned at their table, badge gleaming under lamplight, eyes smug. "Well, well," Burke drawled loud enough for all to hear. "The old rancher thinks he can play hero." "Paid off my debt, Colton? Think that makes those girls free?" The room went still. Glasses paused halfway. Men leaned forward. Jack's voice came out steady, flat as desert stone. "They are free. If you touch them again, you'll answer to me." Crow chuckled, tipping his hat. "You talk big, but you forget. I carry the law. If Burke says they owe, then they owe. That's how it works." The silence that followed pressed hard on every chest. Jack's eyes locked on Crow's. When he finally spoke, each word was slow, deliberate. "Not this time. Not while I'm still breathing." A murmur rippled through the room. Some nodded, some looked away, but every soul felt it. Storm was coming. Burke's grin sharpened. "Then I guess we'll see who this town belongs to." Jack rode out. The sisters met him at the porch, their faces pale. "What happened?" May asked. "Lines were drawn," Jack said simply. "Burke won't wait long." The sky itself seemed to darken with his words. By noon, dust rose on the horizon, riders Burke, Sykes, and Crow at the front. Behind them, armed men, hired hands, drunks, cowards bought with coin. Jack stood on the porch, rifle across his arms. The sisters at his back, afraid but standing. The neighbors began to gather. Word of Burke's arrogance had spread, pulling folks from their homes, from shops, from behind locked doors. Men and women who had been silent too long now stood in the open, watching. Burke shouted from horseback, "Colton, you think you can steal from me? You shelter thieves, debt dodgers, whores." Crow flashed his badge. "The law's on our side." Jack raised his voice, steady as stone. "You all know the truth. You've seen the bruises. You know what kind of men they are. The law is not a badge. The law is justice. And justice has been gone from this town for too long." The crowd murmured louder now, courage sparking. May stepped forward, pulling Lily with her. Her voice shook but didn't break. "We are not the only ones they hurt." We're just the ones left standing. The murmur turned to voices. The tide shifted. For the first time, Burke's power looked fragile. Now, I know some of you watching are thinking, what would you do here? Walk away like most folks? Or stand your ground like Jack? If you don't want to miss how this ends, hit that subscribe button. Because this fight is only just beginning. Burke's grin twisted with rage. He shouted, spurring his horse forward. The showdown had come. Burke spurred his horse forward, shouting for his men. Sykes followed close, knife flashing in the sun. Deputy Crow rode tall, badge glinting like he owned the law itself. But Jack Colton didn't flinch. He stepped off the porch, boots sinking in the dust. His rifle rose, steady in weathered hands. Not one step closer, Jack said. The sound cut across the yard, harder than any shout. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then Burke laughed. You think you can stop all of us, old man? His men shifted, hands hovering near their pistols. The townsfolk held their breath. Jack's voice dropped, low and calm. I don't need to stop all of you. Just the first, it was enough. Everyone knew he meant it. Burke snarled, jerking his pistol free, but Jack was faster. The crack of his rifle split the air. Burke's hat flew from his head, the bullet grazing past his ear. Close enough to kill, close enough to warn. Burke froze, pale beneath the dust. The crowd gasped. For the first time, the fear shifted, away from Jack and squarely onto Burke. Deputy Crow tried to bark orders, flashing his badge. This man threatens the law, arrest him. But no one moved, not even the men Burke had paid. Too many eyes had seen too many bruises, too many daughters and sisters broken by his cruelty. May's voice cut through, clear as a bell. You all know what they did. To us, to others, she held Lily's hand high, trembling but unshaken. They think they own this town. Do they? The silence cracked. First one voice, then another. No. Then louder. No. Until the yard filled with shouts, strong and rising. The people stepped forward, men with pitchforks, women with rifles, a tide too big to stop. Sykes dropped his knife. Burke's own riders peeled away, backing their horses into the crowd. Even Crow's smirk faltered as he realized his badge meant nothing now. Drop it, Jack said again. This time, the whole town echoed him. Drop it. Burke's pistol hit the dirt. Crow's badge followed. Rough hands seized them both. Rope bound their wrists tight, tighter than they had bound May and Lily. The crowd surged, marching them down the street, the same street Burke had once ruled. Justice was no longer in his pocket. Justice walked him to his fate. The dust settled slow. Jack lowered his rifle. His chest felt heavy, but for the first time in years, the weight in his eyes had lifted. May stood beside him, silent. Her hand brushed his, just a flicker, just enough to promise. Survival was no longer the only future. Behind her, Lily wiped tears from her cheeks, whispering, "Are we safe now?" Jack looked out over the gathering crowd. Men and women who had once kept their heads down now stood tall. The answer was not his alone. "Safer than yesterday," he said at last. That night, lanterns burned late in town. Burke and Sykes sat bound, waiting to be carried to justice beyond their reach. Crow, stripped of his badge, was left to the silence of men who no longer feared him. And Jack Colton sat quiet on his porch, the sisters safe inside. The wind carried a softer note. For once, it felt like the West itself had taken a long, steady breath. And here's the truth, friends. One man may grow old, may carry scars, may believe his best days are behind him. But when he stands, when he chooses to fight, even when fear burns in his chest, he can change everything. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act while fear is still there. So let me ask you, if you had been Jack, would you have stood your ground or walked away? And if you had been May, would you have spoken out when silence felt safer? Tell me in the comments below. If this story moved you, if you want more tales of courage, justice, and the Wild West, then give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe, because the West may be gone, but but its lessons ride with us still.